So, Daly, I told you guys at the top of the show that for our 10 Minutes to Your Health segment this morning, we take a deep dive into understanding dyslexia. Joining us this morning is Spark Learning founder, Natasha Gray. There she is. Good morning. Welcome to Smile. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you so much for the invitation.
It is a pleasure to have you. Let's start at the top. What is dyslexia?
So dyslexia is a specific learning disability. It's it's the most prevalent learning disability amongst all the learning disabilities. And it's neurobiological in its origin. And it's characterized by difficulties with reading, spelling, and writing. That's the basic. But there's more. It really is, you find persons that have dyslexia, they have difficulties with memory, processing speed, so they have difficulties processing information quickly, and phonological awareness. But it ranges from mild to severe. So some person can have a mild dyslexia or they can have severe dyslexia, right? And it's neurobiological in its origin as well. So it affects the brain, and it's also hereditary.
That's the question I was going to ask you, Natasha.
Yes.
You know, who is most vulnerable? And you're saying hereditary. Are there other factors as well?
Well, primarily it's hereditary, but as I said, it's neurobiological. So there are parts of the brain that process information differently, and you will have persons who have difficulties memorizing information. Right. And it ranges from as early as from primary school, secondary school, and into adulthood. So it also affects the workplace and education on a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Is dyslexia a mental illness?
No, it's definitely not a mental illness. I've heard people think that it is, but it's an educational diagnosis. Therefore, it has nothing to do with your mental health, and it has nothing to do with what people may think. There are myths. So a lot of people also think that people reverse letters and they see things backwards, but that's not the case. There's so many different factors that make person dyslexic.
Mm-hmm. Hang on a little, Miss Nuts. But because I met a reporter, journalist from Brazil. He was here many years ago, and he was telling me that he actually reads the other way. I mean, that's how he works it out. But you are saying that no goes up, or that's not what you say?
No, that's what I'm saying. There's several factors. Some persons may read information backwards. As a matter of fact, there are cases where people see the words falling off the page. So, like as I said, it ranges from mild to severe. So every person is different. It's on a continuum. So you can have mild dyslexia, you can have moderate dyslexia, you can have severe dyslexia. So it's likely that the person you saw, he may have had mild to severe dyslexia. And that's where we may see, letters falling off of the page or words backwards. But that does not, that means you have dyslexia. But as I said, every person is very different.
Okay.
So we treat each person individually.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's break down the signs and symptoms, Natasha, because I meet a lot of persons who have dyslexia, and some of them discover they have it when they're adults, because as children, they're told, we use the word dunce. I'm going to just be plain with it. They don't understand that there's a developmental challenge, and so a lot of them come through the school system never self-actualizing because they don't understand that this is what is wrong with them. So how do we identify that this child may or may not have dyslexia?
As I said, so it's mild to severe, and a child in primary school may present differently than an adult or a child in secondary school. So one of the first signs we see with a child in primary school is they actually have difficulty with rhyming words, and they have difficulty decoding words, individually. They have difficulty with fluency, being able to read at a normal level. So, and then as they go into secondary school and they have not been identified. And that's one of the reasons why one of the first things we do is give teachers checklists. When I'm in schools, we give teachers checklists to make sure that they're not missing a child who could possibly have dyslexia. And as we go on into secondary school, we'll also realize that children will struggle with reading. They read very slowly. they have the information in their brain, in their head, but they find it absolutely very difficult to get it down on paper. They struggle with organization, memory, and so forth. But we must realize that if we do not identify these children early, and I'm talking about as early as 5 and 4, we are going to have a significant gap in their learning. And these children who may have been identified are going to be adults with dyslexia. And that's why a lot of adults go undiagnosed simply because they weren't identified or screened early to prevent and a perfect intervention provided for them so they do not fall into the cracks. And no, we do not like to use that word dunce at all, because it's just a very archaic way of thinking.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, most of the children that I see and adults I see are very bright. They have IQs well above average. They just have difficulties. They have what we call underlying difficulties. So you can use a person's intelligence to determine if they have dyslexia.
Yeah, Delia said something just now in asking a question that I didn't even understand that it could happen. So I'm going to ask you a double-barrel question. Having said that, 1, are you born with it? And 2, can you get it at an older age? Because when Delia said some people don't realize that they have it I didn't know that. I thought you're born with dyslexia. No?
Well, let's just say the brain is wired differently and it is hereditary. So yes, you may be born with it. And as a matter of fact, we can identify children that have a language-based learning difficulty as early as 15 months. So there's a lot of imaging with the brain that tells you what is actually going on in the brain with a child from very early. And we can determine whether or not that child may have a language-based learning disability like dyslexia as early as 15 months. So as I said, it is hereditary. However, with early intervention, a child, an adult can progress. It doesn't matter if they're identified as an adult. Once they are given the right intervention, they will progress. Dyslexia is lifelong. So if you have dyslexia, it's not going to go away. Whether you start reading well, it is there for the rest of your life. And a lot of people do have a lot of coping mechanisms in order to support them as they are in school and in the workplace as well. There's a high percentage of persons who have been undiagnosed in the workplace, as in every workplace. Yeah. And it's very prevalent.
Second part of the question, so can you get it when you're 50, 60? Can you get it then?
No, you are not going to get it at 50 or 60. You would have had it all your life.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, and maybe just yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
You mentioned some of the options in terms of, trained specialists and so on, working with people with dyslexia. But for the parents who are watching this morning, because I feel it's important that the children get support at home, what are some of the things that I can do as a parent to assist my child who's struggling with dyslexia?
Well, parents normally, they have a gut feeling, and a lot of parents that we see, they have this gut feeling something is not right with their child's learning. And most often they will go to the schools and speak with a teacher to say, look, something isn't right. However, in a lot of cases, because a lot of teachers may not have a checklist, we always advise that a child be screened. And a screening is different from a diagnosis. You would just know whether or not the child is at risk or not at risk. So a lot of parents need to look out for things like they're not reading as quickly as they should be for their age. Mm-hmm. They also should be able to identify a letter and say it's sound. And as I said earlier, rhyming as well. If you find that they're having difficulty learning their alphabet, putting words together and decoding them, those are some of the very early signs that a child may have dyslexia. And oftentimes you see parents say things like, just wait and see. Just have them read more. And that does not help. It is critically important that in schools, they're screened universally. Every child that comes into school should be screened to identify whether or not they're at risk or not at risk. And then if they are at risk, they should have a further evaluation to determine whether they do have dyslexia or any other type of learning disability that will impact their learning. So parents, if you feel as if your child is struggling in school, and they are struggling in school, it is important that you speak to their teacher. It's important that maybe you seek external support or ask somebody, anyone who would be able to guide you. And that in some cases is a pediatrician. I work very closely with a lot of pediatricians as well. So pediatricians are also a good source of, information as it relates to dyslexia.
Very well explained, Ms. Nats. Thank you so much for speaking with us this morning. God bless you and the family.
Thank you so much, Napoli and Delia.
That was Spark Learning founder Natasha Gray.
10 minutes to your health. We'll do it again next Thursday. On the road, on the job, International Safety Workshop. That comes up after this. Stay with us, please.